And our speaker this morning is Gil Crisenbery. Gil and his wonderful wife, Sherry, have been members of our congregation since 1999, coming up on soon to the 20-year mark. They both have been incredible leaders in this congregation, and it's a real joy to have Gil present this morning. And now let us enter into worship together.
Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road. Although this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone. I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. The trouble, it might drag you down. When you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. I'm gonna make this place your home. Ooh, ooh, ooh. The words are ooh, it's not that hard. Try it. Ooh. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. The trouble, it might drag you down. You get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. I'm gonna make this place your home. Know you're not alone. I'm gonna make this place your home.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I
I'd like to invite the children up for a story, as you are willing and able. Good morning. The story we're going to do today is adapted from a Jewish folk tale, and it's called Even Their Taking Was Giving. Amal was a deeply religious person whose home was open to all. There was never a day when Amal did not have guests. Many different people ate at their table, and everyone was treated like royalty. Some guests lived in the house for months at a time. Sometimes there were 10 guests. Sometimes there were as many as 30 guests, and all of them were made to feel as if they were in their own home. Amal was always ready to give everything they had to another person. They had reached perfection in kindness, and their giving was done with their whole heart and with joy. One day, Amal sent their child to borrow some money from a neighbor. When the child returned with the money in hand, Amal took the envelope with the money in it, put it away, and never opened it. The child asked Amal, "Why did you borrow the money if you didn't want to use it?" "I did it," Amal explained, "so that our neighbor won't be ashamed to borrow from us when they are in need." Amal had an open home, an open heart, and an open hand. Amal was giving, what we would call gracious and hospitable. More than that, though, Amal was also so sensitive to the possible someday needs of others that they acted so that no one would be ashamed to ask if the need arose. And in that, even their taking was giving.
I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world below. There is no sickness, no toil, no danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my Father. I'm going there for ones who've gone on. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I know dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way is hard and steep, but golden fields lie out before me, where weary eyes no more will weep. I'm going there to see my mother. I'm going there no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. One more time. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home.
Good morning. It's quite an honor for me to be up here doing the readings today. And just to let you know, the reading today will be a little longer than normal, but the sermon will be a little shorter. So they do share a common theme, so some of the words may be the same. And our reading today was written by Peter Morales, and it's titled Religious Hospitality, which of course goes to our theme for the month. Think of a time when you have felt truly welcomed. Maybe it was coming home after a long time away. Maybe somebody took you in when you were far from home. Relive those feelings for a moment. Feel that warmth again. See those smiles and feel those arms embracing you. What a gift it is to be welcomed. Hospitality, true hospitality, is emotionally powerful. It touches something very deep in us, our profound human longing to feel accepted, to belong, to be loved, to feel safe, to be valued and respected. Hospitality is not something to be proclaimed. It must be lived. Hospitality is both a spiritual discipline and an expression of spiritual health. If I feel angry, hurt, unloved, or alienated, I cannot offer a warm welcome. Conversely, if I am at peace, filled with joy, aware of those around me with compassion in my heart, then hospitality flows naturally and inevitably from the depths of my being. What is true of an individual is also true of a community. A congregation in which people do not genuinely love each other is not likely to exude warmth. A congregation that is self-absorbed and disconnected from its community cannot offer religious hospitality. Hospitality is love in action. The world's great religious traditions have long affirmed the link between religion and hospitality. Both Hebrew and Christian scriptures admonish us to welcome the stranger as a guest. Hebrew scriptures, recalling the oppression that the children of Israel suffered as foreigners, teach us to love the stranger, the outsider. The book of Leviticus instructs the people, "You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt." The teachings of Jesus extend this tradition. Jesus and his followers went beyond welcoming the foreigner to the more radical practice of welcoming the marginalized. Children, women, tax collectors, the poor, lepers, prostitutes, even enemies. In Jesus' vision of the kingdom of God, there are no foreigners. We are all God's children, and we are all loved. The Buddhist tradition arrives at a similar place by a different road. In some ways, the Buddhist perspective is the most radical of all. Buddhism teaches that the very distinction between one group and another, between insider and outsider, between citizen and alien, is a dangerous illusion. The renowned Buddhist teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, teaches us in Buddhism there is no such thing as an individual. His point is that we are so profoundly connected by history, culture, biology and our interdependence, that the very notion of a separate individual is false. A deep awareness, a spiritual and cognitive enlightenment reveals that we are part of a greater unity. In the Buddhist tradition, our connections are real. Our separations are an illusion. When we believe in the illusion of separation, not only do we deceive ourselves, but we follow a path that will bring us great suffering. If you and I are ultimately connected, you cannot be other. You cannot be an alien, a foreigner. If I do not know you, I do not yet know a part of myself. When you and I are separated, neither of us is whole. Hospitality, true hospitality, is not an obligation. It is not a duty. True hospitality is a spiritual practice, a religious practice. Like meditation or prayer, hospitality connects us with a deep truth and compassion that transcends our lives. Our sense of isolation and individualism is an illusion that cuts us off from what is real, true, loving, and sacred in life. There are 1,000 ways to practice hospitality. First, we can begin by being open and loving with those we already know, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and extending ourselves to others. But we cannot and we must not stop there. If we stop there, we draw a circle that keeps others out, a circle that disconnects us. We must go further. True religious hospitality reaches out to those we do not yet know. This could be as simple as greeting those seated next to you on a Sunday morning in church, or working up the courage to talk to a stranger during coffee hour. It means warmly welcoming those who come looking for a religious home. As Unitarian Universalists, we respect each person's search for truth and understanding. And as stewards of hospitality, we can stand ready to look at each other face to face, to see the divine in each person. But we must also take the spiritual practice of hospitality beyond the safety of our own religious community. Our practice must extend to opening our hearts to strangers throughout our lives. The real challenge for us, the real spiritual heavy lifting, comes from when we encounter people who appear to be different from ourselves. People we perceive as different test our spiritual development and help us develop spiritually. We need to practice openness to people who make us uncomfortable. People who come from a different ethnic background, people a lot older or younger, people who are gay, straight, or conservative, people who believe crazy things or are mentally ill. When we welcome what is uncomfortable, we grow. The best reason to reach out is not to help another person. It is to make ourselves whole. Reaching out frees us from the prison of the self. Reaching out with love frees us from individualism and narcissism. With love comes understanding, and with understanding, love. Ultimately, they're the same. The enlightenment that the Buddha spoke of and the God that is the love of Christian tradition are one. When we make true connections, we touch what is holy. Hospitality is the start of the journey. It is the enactment of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The hunger for true religious community, for connection and commitment, is pervasive in our time. Our future depends on whether we can connect with people at the level of their deepest longings and highest aspirations. We are called to feed the spiritually hungry and to offer a home to the religiously homeless. And in the process, we are enriched in spirit. Someone, a long-lost relative of the human family, is coming into our lives. It happens every single day. At church, it happens every Sunday. May you and I be there with anticipation in our hearts and with a smile on our faces, our eyes ready to truly meet the eyes of another, and our arms extended, saying, "Welcome, welcome."
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest, Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. One more time. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me.
Our sermon this morning was originally compiled and delivered by Don Daniels, and it is titled, "The Spiritual Practice of Radical Hospitality." Hospitality has an inescapable moral dimension to it. It is not a mere social grace. It is a spiritual and ethical issue. It is an issue involving what it means to be human. All of our talk about hospitable openness doesn't mean anything as long as some people continue to be tossed aside. One ethicist put it this way: the opposite of cruelty is not simply freedom from the cruel relationship. It is hospitality. Hospitality puts an end to injustice. But calling hospitality a moral issue does not tell the true story about it either. A moral issue can become bogged down in legalisms, and hospitality is no legalistic moral issue. It is instead a spiritual practice, a way of becoming more human, a way of understanding yourself. Hospitality is both the answer to modern alienation and injustice, and a path to a deeper spirituality. It may seem strange, counterintuitive maybe, or even deeply ironic to want to delve into the practice of radical spirituality now, with hundreds of people, aliens being rounded up, torn away from their families and thrown out of the country, and just after the anniversary of the most deadly terrorist attack on American soil. There's a book about Saint Benedict titled Radical Hospitality, Benedict's Way of Love, that was first published in early 2002, largely inspired by the events of and subsequent devastating response to 9/11. The introduction reads in part, "The events of September 11, 2001 are behind us now. The chaos remains. In America, we sense that something has struck at the foundation of what it means to be American. It's easy to blame this confusion and fear on the other, on the terrorists, but it is our response to terror that has shaped what and who we are becoming. We are created by our choices, and we create our world by those choices. And that last sentence is so powerful and so true, I'm going to say it again. We are created by our choices, and we create our world by those choices. Now, St. Benedict lived in the same kind of chaos. He wrote to a culture shaken to the core by the fall of the Roman Empire 1,500 years ago. This makes Benedict particularly timely. People are now mining Benedictine spirituality to its depths for the profound wisdom that has made it relevant all these centuries. The rules of St. Benedict that he crafted to guide the monastic movement that began in the 5th century and continues to this day are rooted in the teachings of Jesus, who had the rather radical idea that we need to love the ones that are hard to love our enemy. So the phrase radical hospitality means to find ways to welcome the marginalized, the forgotten, the misunderstood among us. Going even further back in Judaic history, Karen Herring, a UU minister, reminds us that it was Abraham who long ago set the bar for hospitality so high. His storied welcome of 3 total strangers tells us what true hospitality looks like. Abraham did not wait for the unannounced visitors to arrive at his tent. He ran out in the heat of the day to greet them and invited them under the shade of his oaks. He did not ask for names or country of origin or photo ID. Instead, he bowed, requesting the privilege of washing their feet. Offering them a little bread, he did not serve whatever he had on hand. He ordered fresh cakes to be made from choice flour and a tender calf from his herd, slaughtered and prepared especially for the 3 strangers, whose names he didn't even know, but wayfarers who turned out to be God or angels. How far we've come. If someone called me to ask what Abraham's example might mean today, would I even pick up the phone if I didn't recognize their caller ID? I don't think so. Hospitality is often regarded as the basis of one's relationship with God or with the holy blessing of life itself. In folklore from around the world, God shows up disguised as a beggar, a foreigner, an undesirable neighbor, or even a pesky creature. And the one who opens the door and welcomes the stranger to the table is the one who entertains angels unaware. Not only does this earn favor in God's eyes, it also, not coincidentally, creates a harmonic social order in which food and shelter are shared and the possibility of friendship is invited. Hospitality is both an ethical and a practical issue. The understanding woven into many hospitality stories and customs is one of reciprocity in which the roles of guest and host are cosmically linked and known to shift. In Arabic, Latin, and Greek etymology, a single root word connotes both guest and host, suggesting a basic truth. The person who is guest on one day will be host on another. Despite what you have been told, despite your own darkest doubts and suspicions, you are welcome at the table. The universe is glad to see you. In this church, we mean to be for each other the ears and eyes, the welcoming voice, the incarnate, embodied, real live embrace of the universe, or God. I'm not sure that God has any other way of showing up except through us. That is universalism. That is radical hospitality, and it extends to all of us and to everyone. It is a theological idea, not unique to our tradition by any means, but it is central here. The word radical means literally, not wild or crazy, but to the very root. Sometimes I think our church has no greater purpose than to provide hospitality not only to the intellect, not only to the conscience, not only to the social animal in us, but also to the spirit, to the soul. You'd think that would be obvious, but it's easy to forget. We say, this is a church where we welcome the use of reason in the religious enterprise. We welcome your best ideas. We say, this is a congregation where the ethical impulse is grounded in effective social action and earnest work for peace and justice. We welcome your energy, your passion. We say that music and the arts are so important here, so vivid and rich. We welcome your creativity. Our democratic process is engaging and so full of integrity. We welcome your organizational skills. We say this is a place where you can go to dinners and parties all through the year, get free coffee and pastry every Sunday, and share our social potluck on the last Sunday of every month. And you can make friends and have a great time, and we welcome your participation and your help. And all of this is true. But we forget sometimes to say also or to hear also, when most we need to hear it. This is a place where your soul is welcome, your interior, authentic self, deepest, original soul, the spark of divinity within you that burns or flickers. Your soul is welcome to sit down or wander or rest, no matter how weary or weepy or lost. This is a place where the soul may come out. What we mean to say is, whatever its condition, may the deepest, most authentic part of you be at home in this house. Why do we forget to speak it sometimes? Neglect to hear it. When we talk about hospitality here, about radical hospitality that goes to the very root of who we are as a gathered religious community and what we're called to be, we mean that we will welcome not only each person, whoever they are, whatever their gifts, whatever their need, but each person in his or her wholeness, his or her holiness, a holiness which may be in fact at any moment full of holes or contradictions, full of fear, brokenness, and doubts. Come in, we say, not just in the full flower of your thriving, but in your loneliness, your confusion, anger, shame, despair, the unfinished, imperfect, holy wholeness of your being. Come in not only with all your apparent accomplishments and strengths, but with those pesky vulnerabilities. These may in fact be revelations. They may be glimpses of whatever humanity we share. This house will hold them all, will hold us all. The invitation of radical hospitality applies to those who arrive at the door to our outer world in terms of people and experience we may find difficult or challenging. But equally important, radical hospitality invites us to be changed within, where hospitality begins. The Sufi poet Rumi writes about this inner guest house, with its new arrival each day, including joy or sadness, anger or depression. Welcome them each in because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. All of the feelings I encounter that make me want to slam the door on my inner self, these are precisely the places where we are called to meet the divine, the holy, or as some would say, God. Instead of being able to say that holy appears only in what is familiar, only in the people who make us feel comfortable and safe and look like us, hospitality calls on us to extend ourselves, to risk. Radical hospitality challenges the very core of this assumption that what is safe is most sacred. Carl Jung once said in an interview that he began calling God all those things which cross my willful path violently and recklessly, all things which upset my subjective views, plans, and intentions, and change the course of my life for better or for worse. The divine is that power which disrupts everything. What if our spiritual practice was to court a holy disruption? In closing, I want to share with you the poem Red Brocade by Naomi Shihab Nye from her collection 19 Varieties of Gazelle. The Arabs used to say, when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is, where he's from, where he's headed. That way, he'll have strength enough to answer. Or by then, you'll be such good friends you don't care. Let's get back to that. Rice, pine nuts, here, take the red brocade pillow. My child will serve water to your horse. No, I was not busy when you came. I was not preparing to be busy. That's the armor everyone puts on to pretend they have a purpose in this world. I refuse to be claimed. Your plate is waiting. We will snip fresh mint into your tea.